I haven't really done a great job at explaining that previous point. The last thing I'll say before I wrap this up, I know there's an end to this. Wow. I'm looking at my recording right now. It says an hour and 10 minutes and 32 seconds, and I recorded like a 24-minute one before this. But anyway, last weird low blood sugar thing I'll mention. I was up way later than I should have been up. I was playing Half-Life 1 on my computer. It was like 4 a.m. I was like, well, I'll lay down and go to bed. And a lot of times that time, I slept with my lamp on because I was having like a bad time mentally, and the dark would just like terrify me. I was laying on my back in my bed, which I never sleep on my back, and my blood sugar had gotten low while I was playing Half-Life, and I got to a point where I was like, it didn't matter. It was really low. It was like 24 when I finally checked it. But for some reason it didn't matter, and I was just going to lay in bed and go to sleep. And I laid there, and as I did, my vision receded kind of back into my head. But it didn't just go back. Something really strange happened to it. This doesn't make any sense either, but it's the way it felt. When my vision went from the front of my eyes, I guess, where it is normally, and it went back, and it took a while, kind of slowly went back to the back of my eye, and it hit that. It kept going, but it fractured. And now I had two visions. Like I had this very clear, not exactly glassy, I guess it's kind of like that. If two panes of glass were so close to each other that you could just see a seam and there wasn't an obvious split in them, it would be kind of like that. And it split into two, and it kept going back, and the twos, both of them split into three, right? And it kept going, and all of those threes split into fours, and it just kept getting more and more fractal, and fractal is a perfect word to describe what it was doing. It was like looking through a really plain kaleidoscope, or a really clear, like not a kaleidoscope. The ones I've looked through anyway always have like glitter or colors or weird shapes put in them. But this was just my vision that was doing this. And it was really bizarre because I could think that I wanted to move left, and this screen of, like, I'm looking at my room, I'm looking at my bed and the ceiling and the walls and the door, but there's so many of them. And they're at all kind of different orientations. I don't remember any of them quite being upside down, but I'm sure there were some. And I could just go through this massive screen of fractally generated, is the wrong word, of my room. There were just billions and billions of these things, but they were all so clear, and I could get closer to them, and the ones closer to me would of course get bigger in the foreground, and the ones towards the edge of my vision would get smaller and smaller. And then if I wanted to, I could recede from those and go over here to these. But it wasn't very free to move that way. It was very sluggish isn't the right word. It was it was like you were trying to turn you're turning this little gear really fast, but on this gear train, the big gear, it moves really slowly. Like you'd have to do a million of these little gears around to get that one to go around once, It was one of those kinds of things. Like I was putting in way more effort than I was getting out of this experience. And I could go into them when I got close enough. I could go into them, but whenever I would pass over the plane, there were just more fractals inside of that fractal. Except they would have lost a dimension, right? Like if I was at number 16 and I went into it, there'd just be 15. And I just floated in this honeycomb. Honeycomb doesn't even do it justice, It was like like a ball of yarn. That didn't do it either. Like a ball of wool, more like, of all these fractals and just going around. It was mesmerizing, hypnotizing. Like I was just obsessed with it in that moment about how strange this looked. I finally picked one, and I just messed around with it long enough that whenever I went through the last layer, I was back in my head. And I went, oh, I gotta get up and go get something to eat. And what a lame ending to that, right? Like, but that visual is something I'll never get over. And it was so lame. Like my room had 3 colors to it, and my lamp didn't put out that much light. Like it was nothing to look at. If you painted it, somebody would, he'd probably get sick looking at it, you know. But it was the most beautiful thing, just because there were so many of them arranged in such a. There was like a million different crystals, and all these angles, and the complexity of the shape of them was just so intense, and I could see them like splitting, like, you know, when you look at the end of a snowflake and you can zoom in on that water crystal and there's more water crystals on that water crystal. There are smaller versions of it. It was like that just over and over again, but it was with my vision. Very odd. Anyway, that got kind of heavy here towards the end, and I know I said I'd split these into different videos, but you know, it may be worth it just to have it all in one with maybe like chapter divisions. I don't know how this is going to be editing. I thought the first one was long. I don't know how audio editing goes. It's probably not as easy as editing video. But anyway, I don't even know what kind of video I'm going to put to this, or if I even am. It may be just good to listen to like this. But if I don't wear myself out completely and I still feel confident about making more of these, I'm going to make more of these. So look for that.